If you are, I see the red light. Usually my guests see the broadcast has gone live before I do, and I'm the one who starts it. This is kind of weird. But today is different. Today I get to say it's live. I'm Brent Leary. This is the BBC, not the dudes that hired Martin Bashir. We don't roll like that. It's the Brent Broadcasting Channel. And it's a new month. Wow, it's June 1st. Man, what happened to May? Just went away. June is good. June is starting out with a gangbusters here because I have two of my buddies, not just like smart, excellent, great folk, but buddies. So I almost feel like just saying it's the Letty and Layla show because I don't really need these folks. Great. So let me introduce my guests to start off this week. Letty Ledbetter. Let's see, I've known you. My God, it's probably going on about a decade or so, right?
It may be because we met when I was 19.
That's it. That's right. That is true. I thought it was actually 18, but it is. I've known her, and she's one of the best and strategic corporate communications people around in the tech enterprise space. She's just cool, and she's done something that we're going to talk about with the guest that I also have. Another person I've known for a long time. I'm thinking 18, 19 years old.
Yeah, obviously you met me the same year you met Letty when we were both 19.
That's right. Leyla Seka. Now, I met her when she was at Salesforce and she was running the desk.com operation. And she's always been a champion of small business. And then she moved over and started this. Well, she's a partner at the Operator Collective. Actually, we talked about this the last time I saw her, which was, I can't believe this. It's over a year and a half ago, Leyla. Yeah, it's been a while. And we still haven't gone to the Waffle House.
Waffle House, I know.
We still have to do that eventually. Maybe Letty will like to join us now since we're all here together.
Right on.
But in addition to her being a partner in Operator Collective, she is also a co-founder in what I think is really cool and what we're going to be talking about today, the Black Venture Institute. All right. So not only is she a co-founder, Letty is a recent graduate. So I kind of think I've got it all balled up and set up. So let me start with Leyla. Now, Leyla, like I said, the last time we talked, you were in Operator Collective. You guys had just raised like $45 million. You were starting to seed that money into some areas that women operated in their own businesses. But you had also left a nugget as you were kind of talking about this. And let me see, I think I have it queued up. Let me see what's going on here.
Oh, evidence.
Because part of what we said, and of course, this is going back a year and a half ago, there was a segment that I thought was really interesting where you said that, you guys started looking for, operators and investing in companies. Yeah, good products, strong products, but the main objective was to get, more women operators involved in investment and investing in companies that made good logical and financial sense. And a number of those were women-owned businesses. But one of the things you said is, as we started talking a little bit more about underrepresented groups, you said, look, our thesis is more women and underrepresented minorities need to be involved in the investing cycle. Now, that was, like I said, a year and a half ago. Fast forward to where we are now. So you said that was your thesis, but then you executed on that thesis. And part of what that execution was this Black Ventures Institute that you co-founded. So maybe you could talk about why it was important for you to not only have that thesis, but execute on that thesis. And what are you looking to accomplish with the Black Ventures Institute?
Sure. So Operator Collective was cooking, and we were seeing a lot of activity with female operators, much like myself, much like Letty, who hadn't necessarily been in venture or put their money there. Mostly because it's access, right? It's really about access and understanding how to do that. And so when I had started in venture, I said to my partner, Malin, I was like, I wish I could go to a class for like a week and learn what's a SPAC and why do I care about information rights and how do I negotiate a term sheet and all these things that really is not that complicated, once you learn what it is, it's just like any other thing. But when you don't know what it is, it feels really complicated. So when George Floyd was murdered, and the pandemic and this last year, I just couldn't like sit for another minute and not do anything. So I sit on the board of the engineering school at Berkeley. So I called up the dean and said, I know we run a class on venture capital. Get me to the professor. So then I met with Toby Stewart, who became the professor at BVI. And he had this course, and I was like, okay, here's what I want to do. We're going to take all the white people out, and we're going to put all Black people in, except for me and you. And everyone in the course is going to be a Black operator. And then we started talking about it. It was expensive, so we needed to figure out how to make it pay for it. Then I went to Salesforce, which, I left. I worked at Salesforce 12 years. I had the deep roots there. I went to the ventures team. I hooked up with Jackson Cummings there. Salesforce decided to sponsor it. And then I said to Jackson, I really don't want to create a program for Black operators that's done by 2 white people and you. Like, that's not what we're doing here. So he said, I got it. We're going to hook up with this organization called Black VC, enter Fred and the Black VC team. So we spent all of last summer working on this and trying to figure out how to make this happen and how to get it paid for and what it would look like and who would come. And what we ended up creating is a 2-week Zoom course that runs twice a year. It is a mix, and Letty can tell you this because she's went through it, but it's a mix of content and academic content, as well as networking and meeting people like the CEO of Calendly, like Phaedra Ellis Lamkin, like all these people that will blow your mind because you're like, oh my gosh, you're the coolest person I've ever met. And hearing about how they did it and sort of breaking that down. So we ran a cohort through in November. BVI won, and that far exceeded anything I ever thought would happen. And then we just finished BVI 2 a couple of weeks ago, and that exceeded my expectations yet again. And one of the primary things was before we started BVI, only 75 Black people were writing checks in venture, which is appalling, right? I mean, it's just appallingly low of a number. So the idea of the program was we're going to graduate 100 new check writers every year. And whether they decide to write checks or not is their business, but they will know how. And if they want to go into venture, they can, and sort of the access will be open.
So how did you select the first folks to go into these classes?
So we used our network, right? I mean, it's a network-driven organization. So we used our network. We also called for applications, and they applied to BVI and the Black VC folks. That team really runs that selection process and runs through it. And we have a lot of people interested. So we already have way more people than we can get. And then every cohort recommends folks for the next cohort. So we're really trying to build a network, and some really interesting things have happened, and we can talk about that after Letty chats, but you can see how it's starting to work.
So yeah, now that you mentioned Letty, I mean, like I said, you've been in big tech enterprises for a long time, starting early, like but how did you get involved in this? What drew you to this?
Leyla. So I wrote in a post that I met Leyla when I was at Financial Force, which is a Salesforce back, and we work on the Salesforce platform as well. So we were at a reception. I didn't know who she was. Found out later. I mean, and she came over and we started talking, had a great time. And I was like, some cool people here. And then found out who she was, who she is, and what she'd done for equal pay at Salesforce. And I was like, this woman is on the ball. And so I just started, just following her, if you will, on social media and LinkedIn. I was nominated for a leadership program that was funded by Salesforce Ventures. Leyla spoke there, reconnected with her. And then a couple of years later, again on LinkedIn, I saw that she had left Salesforce and she was at Operator Collective. I was like, how do you do that? Still, it hadn't occurred to me. And then I think it may have been in January or whatever, when I heard about the first cohort, and I pinged her. Finally, got the nerve to ping her. I don't know if you remember me, but so how do I get involved in this? She pointed me to the link. I applied. And one of the things, at Oracle, I worked with comms for a lot of the acquisitions. So I was familiar, I had a working familiarity with acquisitions. So with pre-IPO companies. But I always was curious about how, the checks actually got written, how the sausage was made. And here was an opportunity. And what I found out after going through BVI is that I had been an investor. A couple of years ago, I had written a check, invested in, a business for, it was a small business, woman-owned business. But that was, to me, it was more like, oh, here's a friend, let me help out. But now, after going through BVI, term sheets and cap tables and, the language, it's like, it is kind of like a treasure chest. You find it, you open it, and you go, oh my God, there's so many things in here, so many things that we can do. And it's interesting because our cohort, we have met a couple of times after we graduated, so just to go over cap tables more, we're going to meet again. A couple of us have gotten together and said, hey, how can we start writing checks? What can we do? And I've also pinged Leyla. I said, so could you tell me more about this angel funding and this seed? So it's been amazing. It's been amazing. And the thing is that, Leyla is, and, Black VC, BVI, Leyla, Salesforce Ventures, she actually took action. There are so many people who talk about it and say how, or write checks. You heard what she just said. She says, we're not going to have two white people telling a bunch of Black people what to do. But she took action. And you talk about, give a person the fish you eat for a day, teach them how to fish, they'll eat forever. It was one of those things where we're going to be eating forever. And Leyla always has an invitation to the barbecue.
That's nice. Yeah, when you get a standing invitation to the barbecue, you have done something.
Yeah, I feel like I've arrived.
So, Letty, what was maybe one of the misperceptions that you might have come into this with that you found out, not what I thought?
Well, I thought that you had to be, a finance person to do this, and there, and part of the 2-week session, we have, these panels, founders panels. We have guest speakers that run the gamut. One of the case studies, and I can't remember which one, I'm not even sure I'm allowed to say, but one of the case studies, there was featured someone who was in communications and became a founder. And then we had, I have to remember her name because I want to get in touch with her, Rochelle Parham. I was blown away.
She became president of Paramount. She just changed her job. She became some giant job at Paramount. She's crazy.
She spoke to the group and she was in marketing, and I was like, oh, okay. I thought everyone had to be an engineer or in finance, and there are so many ways to participate, to get access. And so that was again, and I told Toby later, Toby was the is a professor. I said, that's where it kind of clicked for me that I could do this too. I can do this too.
Let me just pop up a comment from a mutual buddy. And this kind of she fits into this triangle too, because I was looking at bevy.com and I was hearing all this stuff about Bevy. First, I was like, oh, this is cool. It's a virtual events platform. So I went to the site, and then the other story, their investor round of $40 million. and 60% of the investors were Black. So I was like, the heck? So I went to their page and I was looking at the list of people that were investing in the company, and guess who I saw on there? Leah McGowan Hare. So I immediately had a conversation with Bevy, Derek Anderson, the CEO and founder, and I mentioned to Derek, I was like, hey, I know one of your investors pretty well, Leah McGowan Hare. He's like, you know what? I've only talked to her a couple of times. I was like, well, we need to fix that. So we had a LinkedIn Live conversation with all those three, and she was relaying her experiences because she also went through BVI and then signed on to be an investor in Bevy. So Leah, I think I saw something on the BVI website that says the objective is to get 300 folks to have the ability to write checks within the next several years. So talk about how you see, is this story that Letty has kind of relayed, is that a story that is kind of the usual kind of story people are starting to tell as they go through this process?
Yes. And we saw, it very much is like, I can do this. And I had the same awakening, quite frankly, while I was at Salesforce, where I was like, wait a second, I can invest my money in these companies. Like, why am I, so yeah, it's an awakening. It's also, we're community-driven people. That's how humans work. And when you meet a community of people that are interested in something you're interested in, everyone starts working together, things happen. Like, so Leah was part of cohort 1. The cohort 1 team of Black Venture Institute, they meet one Saturday a month and they listen to angel pitches and they angel invest together. A women's network was sort of born out of that. The ladies of BVI, we meet, fairly regularly and talk about topics from board readiness to whether or not to invest in this. There's lots of deal flow sharing. There's a really active Slack channel that Black VC helps sort of manage for BVI. So yeah, I think what Letty's saying, rich people get rich by putting their money to work, not by putting it in the bank, right? And that for those of us that didn't see that all our lives, how are we supposed to know that? So once we break that open and we're like, oh, I can make this money make more money by just, you're like, wow, why wouldn't I want to, it's all a little gambly, so everyone has to be careful. I will say that, but knowledge is power, and BVI gives you a lot of knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one thing that I remember Derek saying from Bevy is, this investing in tech companies is one of the last great opportunities to accumulate a serious amount of wealth. And the fact that up until recently, Black and brown have kind of been shut out. So this kind of effort is timely, and I think is necessary in order for things not to get even further out of balance than they are today. Because the further this goes on, if we're not involved, the worse. The spread between wealth is getting nothing but bigger and exponentially bigger as time goes on.
Well, right. And look at someone like Letty. She is a software professional. She has worked at all the best software companies in the world. She managed public relations, one of the hardest parts of the job. Like, she should be in the wealth creation cycle that's going on the side hustle, right? And now she was investing. She just didn't know the words, right? So it shows up.
Well, and now going through BVI, trying to develop my thesis and say, because I do want to focus on the underserved, underrepresented communities, women, small business. I do know tech, and I'm not ruling tech out because that is a fast growing segment. But there's another segment that's growing quickly as well, and that's women-owned business. And so I'm just trying to develop my thesis, but I'm ready to. I listened to a pitch, and I was almost like, I'm in. But it really, one of the things we talked about in BVI was know yourself. And I was like, okay, so I don't want to go for the first one. I want to make sure that it resonates with me. But I'm looking forward to, getting out there and making Leyla proud. Making my mom.
You always make me proud. Being your friend makes me proud.
Yeah.
I love
Everybody's
you.
proud here, folks. Everybody's proud. Leyla, maybe you could talk about the getting the investment from companies like Salesforce Ventures. How important is it to have these folks be a part of this process?
It's really important. It's really important. First of all, this is expensive, and we don't want to create just one more boundary. Like, oh, here's BVI. Give me $80,000, and then you can come. That's not the point. The point was to take barriers down, not create new ones, right? And also, look, a company like Salesforce, big companies supporting Black VC, Google supports them a lot. These companies are showing a commitment to changing what's happening here by putting their money where their mouth is and supporting this. And Salesforce has been a great partner at BVI. They really have. They've shown up time and time again. And it's Salesforce Ventures, it's John Samorjai's team. But I also think that we all have to attack the problem together, right? It can't, if one group goes after, I learned this with equal pay. If it's just me and my girlfriend screaming, nothing's going to happen, right? It was when Mark Benioff said something that everyone was like, shh, right? So we all got to work together. And so we need everybody in the fight.
One of the things that you said about a year and a half ago was, it was kind of surprising to me, is because all the experience that you brought to the table, you said, you weren't really getting asked to be a part of advisory boards for some of these tech companies. You were getting asked to be advisory boards for things that were not tech related, let's put it like that. Does this also play a piece in changing the look, the makeup of advisory boards and decision makers at tech companies?
Yes. And I think that, a lot of this is, look, people grow up in the neighborhood. They look like the exact same people. Like, God bless a lot of the white execs I grew up with, and they're all nice people, and I love them, but they only grew up with other white people. They didn't grow up in Berkeley, California, where I did. They weren't bussed around. They didn't have all different types of people in their courses. They only knew white people. So, in order to break through that, you sort of have to shift the way people consider advisory roles and how they think about sharing equity in their company and doing non-traditional things to make their cap table look more interesting than just the same guys who worked at PayPal making all the money. God bless, but we all need a cut here. So yeah, I think that it takes a lot of work to change stuff like this. And so you have to sort of I've said this before, you have to sort of do Herculean things, like extra big things. Like BVI was a big thing. Like, I was supposed to not work last summer, and my family was like, all you did was work on BVI. You were nowhere. You didn't go fishing. You didn't leave the house. Like, my mother-in-law was like, who's going to charge? Like, I was yelling on the phone all the time. So, but it was a big thing. And hearing what Letty said, are you kidding me, Brent? That's like the best thing I've ever heard. Like, outside of my children and my marriage, hearing stories like Letty's and what's going on with BVI, that is the thing I'm the most proud of.
And Letty, if you look out 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, what do you want to accomplish with what you've learned with BVI?
I'm looking to be LP or GP somewhere. But at the same time, I want to, for me, it's about community and, making sure that my thesis is tight and I'm focused on what where I want to channel my money. Do I want to go into big VC? I don't know, but I'm learning. I'm more equipped now than I was a year ago. And I got to tell you, this is an immersive course. 2 weeks. It was intense. It was fun, but it was intense. I felt like I was going through, business school all over again, and it was compressed into 2 weeks. But there was so much information. We had a lot of fun too. So much information. And the founders panels, the guest speakers, all of that, learning real world experience, the case studies, 2, 3, 5 years from now, the world is our oyster right now.
Nice. I like the sound of that. So we're looking to have 300 Lettys out there, basically, ready to go and take over the world.
BVI graduates, BVI for life, man.
Oh, man, BVI. I feel like, some symbols could be tossed up or something. You create something like that. So let's talk about how people who are interested could get involved. What's the process, and what are the expectations? Let's set expectations, because to me it sounds like you've probably got more demand than supply at this point.
We do, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't apply. I mean, so you should apply. We have a website, Black Venture Institute. There's a way to apply from there. We really try to create a diverse cohort. So you have folks like Letty, who are senior, who've been doing this at a lot of super fabulous companies for years, and then you have folks that just coming out and worked in finance for a year, are brilliant, but sort of that. So we do look for a diverse cohort. The other thing I would say is you should join Black VC. So Black VC is an organization unto itself that really focuses on advancing Black venture capitalists, and it's been around for 3 years. It was started by Fred Grosh and Sydney Sykes, and it's an open community. So I think I'm a member of Black VC. You don't have to be Black either, right? You can just be sort of wanting to learn more. Of course, if you are Black, I think you're interested in VC, it would be crazy not to join this. Lots of good resources. They also run lots of different programs. They have programs for one called Breaking into Venture, which is really focused on younger folks in their career that are like, okay, I think I don't want to be a finance leader at Merrill Lynch. I think I want to be in venture. And so that's a program where we focused on that. BVI is a little bit more of a senior program, but they also like Black VC just developed a scout program with Lightspeed that they launched. So there's sort of, I think that organization in general is a good place for anyone that's interested in venture capital to go learn a lot more about what's going on. And then apply to Black Ventures. We read everything. Like we are very intentional in the creation of this course and who's in it. And Letty reaching out to me was a great sign. I was like, well, if Letty's interested enough to reach out, then goodness, yeah, like that's who I was like mentally thinking of when I was like my friends like Letty, my friends like me 6 years ago before I started doing this, and was like, oh wait, there's a whole new revenue stream. I'm making a whole bunch of new money that I didn't even. Like a new hot side, like more. I mean, for me, it always comes down to income inequality, right? That's the one that really kills me. And I was like, well, what is this? Like, so lots of ways to get involved, and ask questions. That's the best way to learn. At least that's how I do it.
And just for people who don't know, can you just tell folks what Operator Collective is all about?
Sure. So Operator Collective is a fund that I raised with my partner, Malin Yen. It's a $50 million fund. It's focused on enterprise B2B SaaS. That's clearly what we grew up doing. The thing that's interesting about our fund is the LP base. So in most venture funds, you don't even know who the LPs are. Like I'm an LP in a whole bunch of venture funds. I have no idea who the other people are. Our fund is different, right? Our LPs are sort of our secret sauce, and they are all operating executives, or were operating executives. 90% of them are women. 40% of them are people of color. Over 75% of them had never invested before they gave money to Operator Collective. So it just gives you a sense of even the women that are running billion-dollar businesses and giant companies, investment was not necessarily something that was easy for them to access. And Operator Collective really threw the door open on that. And Malin Yen, my partner, deserves a lot of credit for that. She came up with the model, but it's working.
I would say so, and it sounds like it definitely had an influence into what you're doing with BVI as well, right?
Totally. Listen, BVI was born from my own frustration with not understanding what a SPAC was for a long time, and like scratching my head about why I cared about information rights so much. I just thought if I could get educated quicker, I could go even faster. And so when the opportunity to open that door for other people came along, it just seemed like a no-brainer to me.
Well, what's a no-brainer to me is having folks like you that have been just cool friends, and then when I see a friend over here, all of a sudden I see them commuting with a friend over here. I'm like, well, damn, I need to bring up, because I'm a friend too, and you guys are doing some cool stuff together, and I really appreciate just generally speaking what BVI is doing, and also getting the perspective of Letty, who's somebody I trust, who I know, and to hear her and to see. I saw what you wrote about you, Leyla, on LinkedIn, and that was when I was like, damn. I need to bring them all together.
I started crying. My kids were like, why are you crying? I was like, oh, Letty's LinkedIn.
It was touching. I mean, I was like, wow. I almost felt like a little moisture in the corner of my eye too. I'm like, wow, this is great. But seriously, this is great. It's awesome to see the start that BVI is off to, and to see people like Leah and Letty. It's like Leah, Letty, Leah.
I know it's a lot of L's.
That's what it is. But to see, I mean, folks that I know and respect and trust, to see them quite honestly raving about their experience, and then to know another friend of mine was part of founding that experience is great. So once again, it's at blackventureinstitute.com, or what's the website?
Yep, blackventureinstitute.com.
Okay, and the other one you're talking about, the people ought to join, is Black Venture?
Black VC.
Black VC.
BLCKVC.
Great. Okay. Thanks again. People who are interested, they could go there and find out everything and get that scoop on what's going on, and even apply. And if they don't make it the first go round, is it okay for them to reapply?
Yeah.
How does that work? Okay.
Absolutely. Look, persistence pays off. You keep applying. I'm going to be like, you really want it? Come on in.
And it's so well worth it. It's so worth it.
Well, what has been worth it for me is having you guys with me here right now. Thank you so much for taking time to explain this. I can't wait to track the progress of all these, what you're doing, and the friends that I have involved. And they're have to start hitting them up for loans at some point, because they're going to be making so much money off of this. But that's okay. But again, thanks again. And I can't wait to talk to you both. I can't wait to actually see you at some point face to face. It would be great if we're chilling at the Waffle House doing that. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but as long as we get a chance to get together, I'm all down for it. But thank you both for taking time, and thank everybody. I hope you guys got a lot out of this one, because I know I did. I'm going to start applying myself. Thanks for having us, Brent.
Absolutely. You're wonderful. Thank you so much.
And I will talk to you tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. Okay, we'll see you.